You know, we fear what we don't understand. And those with lower vibrations love to take advantage of the fact that we don't have a full comprehension of something. And they try to play with our emotions and instill fear or lust. So, learning where things stop and start and recognizing our own powers and ways of accessing protection helps us overcome our fears. Fears of the unknown become lessened by understanding. And if you're interested in hearing more about psychic protection, there's another video here on YouTube that you can check out called The 3 Types of Psychic Protection. But today we are going to enter into a really unique conversation about 3 things that we might fear. And we'll be offering some suggestions about how to cope with them. The first step, of course, is acknowledging that what we might not want to think about, and then addressing that problem directly. And today we're going to be talking about ghosts, UFOs, and the boogeyman with paranormal investigator and UFO expert Gaylen Chauncey. Gaylen is a founder of the paranormal troubleshooting team called Afterlife Goes On Investigations. Her experiences with the paranormal cover a lot of territory, from ghosts to UFOs to monsters under the bed. She is the author of the ghost story, The Make-Believe in the Boogeyman Chronicles, which is available on Amazon and is based on her real-life encounters with ghosts and monsters. Quite the scary read. On her site, which is www.afterlifegoeson.com. If you want to check her out while we're on air, it's Afterlife Goes On. Award-winning ghost stories based on her investigations, as well as photos which have been featured in paranormal magazines, video, and audio. Her team sponsors the Spirits of Christmas toy run each year for homeless children in the Roanoke Valley. I just want to welcome to the show today Gaylen Chauncey. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm just tickled that you decided to come on with me and talk about some of this stuff. We met each other through a common link, which was both of us being guests on Inside the Paranormal Virginia with John Salas. That's where we started crossing paths here. I'm just happy to have you.
Well, it's really interesting to be talking to a medium, about stuff like this and getting a medium perceptive view on what you think, because I feel like mediums have an ability to communicate.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right, and that's something I don't have, and so that's why I've always been fascinated.
Paranormal investigation, and as we get into experiences with UFOs, they're kind of complementary sciences, if you will, because my job is to connect with that energy and convey messages both directions, actually. And yours is in creating evidence a different way. I might be trying to use evidentiary means of describing who I'm talking to, maybe tap into their personality, mannerisms, things that they would have commonly said, etc. But with you, you're hardcore when it comes down to the science behind proving the existence of things that most people either don't think about or don't want to think about,
It's so true. And with me, like you said, working together, I provided evidence for you.
Yes.
Going, listen, this is what I'm talking about here.
Right.
So you're right, and it's 2 different jobs, because I'm the detective looking for the evidence.
Right.
Okay, and I bring it to you and you solve the case, and
exactly.
By communicating. And I do believe in that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm curious about, I love the name of your website, afterlifegoeson.com. Tell us a little bit about that. How'd that start?
Well, to me, when I was little and growing up, ghosts were, people. Okay, even though they were ghosts, they were people. Yes. And to me, they were, still alive. And then when I was researching it, people who were having near-death experiences, they saw a long white tunnel, and they would see family and friends that had been gone for years,
Mm-hmm.
waiting
Mm-hmm.
for them on the other side. And so I went, well, that proves life does go on. Yeah,
Yeah.
or they wouldn't have been there. And then somebody like you who's communicating with them, it proves that life does go on.
Yeah, it's really mind blowing. I know, there are a lot of, I was just listening to some TED Talks on YouTube or watching some on, the continuation of life after
Mm-hmm.
death and the death experience. I have that posted on my Facebook, some of them just because they were curious to me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Doctors talking about the phenomenon of people seeing beings and familiar people too from the other side. And I think it's all a continuum, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just sort of
I
like
believe that.
like a rainbow. Sometimes it's a full-on rainbow, and you can see all the colors, and
Yeah.
sometimes there's just a hint, or it only goes in a partial arch or something like that. But it
Exactly.
doesn't mean that the possibilities are not there.
Yes.
I'm curious too, why paranormal investigation?
Well, like I said, since day one, when I can remember, I've seen ghosts. Okay. I did have a twin sister and two younger siblings, and nobody believed me, but at that age, I didn't know what a ghost was, so it was very hard for me to describe something I didn't understand.
Mm,
Okay. But for some reason, I could feel when they were around me.
mhm.
Okay. And my siblings would come running to me, when I would feel them. And that's how I learned that I could detect when what the energy was coming from them. And it's energy. I can feel it in the air. I know when
Yeah,
they're a few feet away from me.
when you have a sense that they're near, that is way more common of an experience than most people realize. I don't remember the specific statistics, but I believe it's 60 or 70% of people that are widowed um, have an experience where they encounter their loved
Hmm.
one or the one they
Yeah.
fought with for many
Oh
years,
yeah. And you not, when all of a sudden you feel something like this and your instincts are telling you it's different.
Mhm.
Okay, something is different. Now, I tell everybody to follow that instinct because they don't use this ability, and if you don't use it, it just kind of disappears. And with my siblings being so scared because they could see the ghost too.
Mhm.
All right, so and they came around me. My job is to protect them. So as long as I could detect them, we could get move to another room, get away from them. Okay,
Yeah.
because they were always touching us. All of them were. They were always trying to touch us, and
Yeah.
didn't like it.
No, they didn't, I'm sure. And it tells me that you have like a more open or higher soul. We're sort of given authority over
Hmm.
spirit, and a lot of times when people have an encounter they get so frightened
Hmm.
because you just don't expect something from the other side to pop up and appear,
And your brain is
because
repeating over and over again, it can't be real.
yes, yes,
That
yes.
logic part is kicking in. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but even biblically, it talks
yes.
about, we're given dominion over the earth.
Hmm.
And I believe that with our life contract, when we decide we are coming in here, that we do have a right of occupation, a right to occupy our own body, our own homes, our own vehicle, our own workspace. And it seems to me that your natural instinct was to assert that authority um, just from a very young age.
Hmm. And most of ghosts, they didn't try to talk to me. I thought that was real strange, but their eyes were imploring. They just was like, see me. Can you just
Hmm.
see me? And that's what all of them were doing. They were different ages, different people, different types of clothes, kids, women, men. It just, that's all they wanted, and I couldn't understand, and when you're so young, at first I was scared, but
Yes.
with my siblings to protect me, I just turned my fear around, and it became almost like a weapon to protect ourselves with. And that's how I honed in my ability. I just kept using it.
Yeah, and I'd like to differentiate for our listeners too the difference between ghosts and spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, spirits are the souls of people that have fully crossed over,
Yeah,
to
passed
use
on.
a common
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
expression there. But ghosts, I put them in
Earthbound. Yeah,
yes, yeah, I
they are
call them
earthbound.
the tweeners, you know,
Yeah.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And
Yeah.
you mentioned you or alluded to the fact that you don't see them per se, but you do sense them.
And I can see them sometimes, and they'll look real, just like you and me,
Uh-huh.
but they're always black and white.
Oh,
They're
like
never in color, ever, not even in their lips or anything. And they never make an attempt to talk to me. It's their eyes. They just implore me to go, I am here. And as soon as it clicks in my brain, it's a ghost, bam, they're gone. So it's the only message that they're all telling me the same thing. And I went, they're lost.
yeah,
Yeah.
some of them are. I think I know I've met some that are quite content
Yeah,
being
me too.
attached to the
Yeah.
physical world. They,
Yeah.
maybe were real easygoing and they like to putter around.
And you'll never convince them to move on
No,
because
no.
they're happy and content.
Well, and no point. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as you don't find it disruptive for them.
Exactly.
I have one that lives in my house and he just is a tinkerer.
Hmm.
And I had kind of a funny occurrence with him because I see, I don't, when I see spirit,
Hmm.
most of the time it's clairvoyantly, like in my mind's
Yep.
eye. But I have seen physical spirits, both very positive and very negative
Yes.
energies too. But
Yeah.
this guy cracked me up because one day he was like, I don't know. I really hadn't been that aware of him. And I woke up and I saw him standing in my doorway
Mhm.
and he was sort of like holograph looking, but it was real enough that I grabbed my Glock and pointed at him.
Yeah.
And he just looked so embarrassed. He just
Yeah.
like, oh, I disturbed her. And he
Yeah.
just dropped his head. But I've had a lot of guests in my house that say that they can hear um sense him
Mhm.
and I don't, he's happy here. It's
Yeah.
not I don't he's not in any kind of torment. He's not longing for connection or
He
anything.
just doesn't
It's
want to
just
leave right now,
busy, but it's not anything dark at all.
Yeah.
It's happy and I don't know. I think
And I tell people the same thing when they've lost a loved one and they feel, a couple of months later, they still, they're freaked out because they feel them or they've seen this person as a ghost. And I tell them they're just around, staying around for a little while to watch over their family, make sure everything's okay.
yeah,
Said,
yeah,
it's just, nothing to push on because this ghost will release itself when this person is ready,
exactly.
and sometimes if you just explain it,
Yes.
just explain it to the client what's going on. It kind of makes sense to them, and
Uh-huh.
I'm very down to earth. I don't use fancy equipment. I don't talk in big words. I
Uh-huh.
very my job is there a ghost here? What kind of
Right.
ghost are we dealing with? Is it bad? Is it good? And my job is to try to get the ghost to move on if I can, and it makes the clients happy. And because some clients are just so scared, even though
Yes.
the ghost is totally innocent.
Sure.
Okay, I had an investigation where I had to go up to this lady's house, and she was just complaining that the door would open and close downstairs. So I walk in, and like you said, every once in a while I can see the ghost, and I saw this little boy outside peeking around a tree. When I do a first walkthrough, I have one other person with me with a recorder to record everything I am saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got to verify if there's a ghost there. And I said, well, there's a little boy, and he's peeking at us from behind a tree. So I walk upstairs, and I said, this is a nightmare room. So I just
Yeah, I know
saying
what
what I'm
those feel
saying,
like.
moving along. And I walk into this room, and there's this doll about 2 feet long, and you can hear it on the recorder. And I was memorized. Okay, the first thought went through my mind was I was dealing with a psycho woman. Okay, the second thought that went through my mind was, no, I saw the ghost. She couldn't have done that. Okay, and finally Kevin goes, and I must have been staring at it for several minutes, and Kevin's going, Gaylen, what is it? And I said, that doll, that's the little boy of the ghost I saw downstairs. The woman fainted. Okay.
Wow.
She's with us. We get her up and she goes running downstairs crying the whole time.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. So I go running downstairs and she's on her husband's shoulder and she is just crying and sobbing over and over again. She's for real. She's for real. She's for real. So I get her to calm down and explain to me what's going on. Her son is 35 years old and lives out of state. I don't know who these people are. Okay.
Right.
She said when he was a little kid, he was watching TV late one night and he looked down toward the hallway and he saw this little boy peeking at him from behind a corner. Scared him to death. Never saw the ghost again. When he came to visit a couple of weeks ago, she said she bought this doll 3 months prior. She didn't know why. It just kept calling to her, so she went ahead and bought it off the internet. Her son comes over for a visit. He goes upstairs, looks at the doll, and goes, Mom, that's the little boy of the ghost I saw when I was a kid.
Wow.
So I said the exact same words her son said, and
yes.
I didn't even know these people. And that's when she realized I was for real. And luckily I was able to move him on, and the husband was, didn't believe it, but was going along with it because of his wife. She was very, her anxiety level was sky high. I had to get it back to normal. And I'm helping the ghost along. And then all of a sudden we look over and the husband goes, look at that. And on the fireplace, it looked like a kid put a bunch of crosses on it. And he said that there was no way one of us walked over there and did that. And he goes, that was too weird. So that appeared. And I said, well, that's like a thank you. We're helping, we're doing something very well because this little boy just didn't know that he was a ghost. And kids they need to move on, And so that's what I did. And the door never opened and closed since. And she realized that, people like me are not doing it for money, who are really out there help the client, and she's not scared anymore in her house.
That's
wonderful. To help a ghost to move on, to show, that she was just very wowed by it. And all these orbs appeared, she got pictures of them. She'd never seen orbs before. Why we're helping this ghost move on. And it was just a very great feeling. And, so I do have a lot of investigations that are like that. And I get evidence and I share it with the world. And I try to share my research so we can all help each other.
Yeah. Clarify for our listeners that might not know what an orb is, ORB. What
orbs are, and I really think they are spirits rather than ghosts.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So orbs, to me, they come in different sizes. I have on my website, you can see them, have them the size of cars. They're usually an orb of blue energy or white energy. It looks like a miniature sun.
Yes.
From car sizes to volleyball sizes. I've seen them move so fast that they actually leave a trail, like a contrail of a jet of energy. And I've gotten pictures of it. And they can be tiny little ball, like marble sizes of light. And I believe they are spirits more than they are ghosts.
Yeah, maybe because although clairvoyantly, when I'm doing a reading, they may appear in their physical body. It's much easier to travel as an orb, and it's, if you think of it, if you've crossed into the light, we are all connected. We are all light, so we each have our own distinct vibration. But it does seem like that's the way that they travel, and not so much with ghosts. Ghosts tend to be lower frequency, maybe, and closer to the earth, so their bodies are more evident, physically evident.
And it happens so fast for me that when I see a real ghost, I don't even have time to click the camera. It's just Yeah, and then people, to show people that I'm not seeing dust orbs, because you can't see dust orbs with your eye. Okay,
Right.
I pose people in my pictures, so I'm having to point at something, I'm having to raise their hands in the air, and it amazes them that they look at the pictures and they didn't see anything, and it'd be pitch dark, and you're like, wow. And so I really try to show that I am taking a picture of something I see with my eye,
That's
rather than.
wonderful. Are you fairly regularly successful at capturing orbs in pictures with people?
Oh, absolutely. It's just, it's
I'm
very
so
common.
jealous.
It's very common. I've gotten a couple shadows. I've gotten video of shadow and a picture of a shadow. Those are very hard to get, and but orbs, they just, I don't know what it is about my energy, okay? But ever since I was a kid, ghosts are attracted to me, and they are attracted to me. Some I get what I call an electronic voice phenomena,
Uh-huh.
okay? I get so much that I have on my website, the Talking Dead tab, that has all this in there. They just don't shut up.
Wow.
Okay, I mean, and a lot of times it's one words. Kids are different, though. The last child said two sentences, and kids will actually talk to me. But,
Yes.
voices from the ghosts, I think, are just kind of like showing that they really are there. They want me to know they're there. They won't show themselves, but they'll leave me a message. So it's ridiculous, and I don't know why. They most of the time, a lot of them don't really answer questions, especially if I'm not asking any. They're
Mhm.
just constantly talking to me. But it's really weird too, because ghosts talk to each other. I've caught that,
Yes, yes.
where they're talking to each other.
Have you encountered a situation where the ghost could not see you,
Oh
but
yes,
you could see them? Because that flipped me
yes,
out the first
yeah.
time. Oh,
It
it's
approached us, and my team didn't see it. I did.
uh-huh.
Okay, so when it approached us and it was coming our direction, because it was a dark figure and everything, and I was going, look, everybody, look. And he was moving toward us, and at first I thought it was a real person, because it's in the dark hallway,
Uh-huh.
and I thought it was a real person. So I said, well, who are you?
Mm.
And I can tell it suddenly stopped, and it was surprised that I could see him.
Yes,
Okay, and
yes,
he backed up and disappeared.
yes.
Yeah. So what was your encounter like?
Oh, I was doing a house clearing
Hmm.
for a local couple here in Roanoke, and I had done a house reading and connected with. They had had some pretty scary stuff going on. Her husband was being levitated off the bed, and his hair was being pulled, and stuff like that. Thankfully, not in front of me. And 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 when I met the ghost, he was just a regular guy that had been born in the Depression,
Hmm.
and he had always looked at the world from the outside in. And he was in their living room, and even though we were talking about him, he was completely oblivious that I was there, or that, he was just
Wow.
jealous of them, like what they had,
Uh-huh.
but he wasn't trying to be aggressive at that particular moment. And so we were filling the house with love and peace, and they were doing a great deal of that because I train the people to help clear their own
Yes.
house so I don't have to come back.
Yep,
And,
I know exactly what you mean. I do the
yes,
same thing.
good, good. And we got to the point where it was the place where I could feel him. Like, I'll do a house reading first. I think you must do similar thing with the
Yeah,
recording, except nobody's
exactly.
recording in my case. And we got to the bathroom that he believed he was sitting in a shed overlooking a stream and looking down the lane at another house that he used to trade work for food at. And suddenly, as the man who was the one being tormented went in the bathroom and started filling the room with, they were using crystals,
Uh-huh.
to do this with. Uh,
Absolutely.
they were. He was filling the bathroom at this point by with love and peace, and something, maybe because of the connection that that ghost had had with that man,
Mhm.
brought him into the present action of what was going on. And he looked at me and he said, "Can I have peace and love too?" And I almost cried because I said, "For sure you can."
Yeah.
Sure. And angels came and I mean that technically, and escorted him up the stairs and out the door to the light, which is the place we had designated for some of the other things that were being cleared. And it was just amazing. But it really floored me that he didn't see me, but it's a difference of perception and vibration.
Yeah, I was, and that was the only time I've ever, I've, come across ghosts by accident, going around the corner of the same room, bam.
Sure.
But never were, they weren't aware that I could actually see them. And I don't know what this ghost's intention was when he got to us, but kind of, was like, well, who are you? And
right.
I was very relaxed, and irritated he was there,
Well, you just mentioned being relaxed. That's really very important, because some people think in clearing a house or even an energy out of someone's energetic field, like in the case of possession or whatever, that you have to fight them. You see a lot of drama on TV, the garlic and the cross, get thee behind me and all that. But if you push against a negative energy, guess what? You're attached to it, because your energy follows focus. So what you said about being very relaxed with it,
exactly,
uncombative, and you have such a compassionate way too about the way that you do your work. You have a I would say a love or a care for.
I feel so sorry for him. I just do. I just sadness is hard to see. It's hard to hear ghosts ask for help.
Yes.
Kids asking for help.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. And sometimes I can't help them because they're in public places that you're not allowed to do that. And
I know. I kind of wonder what I would do in that circumstance.
Let me tell you, whenever I can, I was talking. You bet you I was doing that, and I was like, trying to get this little girl out of there. And believe me, I'm not going to try something. Of course, I did. And all you got to do is talk to them. I was at this one house that I was drawn to, and I could tell there were a lot of old ghosts there. It was an old plantation. And I just, had got my recorder out, and I said, listen, there's the light. I don't know who you all are, but please go through the light. And I was just there for 10 minutes is all I said, took a few pictures. When I listened back, there was a young man while I was talking said, God is with you.
Oh.
So when a ghost tells me God is with me, that just did it. You can't, it makes me feel good. I am doing the right thing. I am helping. Even if I do all this and I only help one soul, it's all worth it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's saving a life.
Yeah. I had some lower vibrational energies speak to me when I was in my 20s in my husband's great grandmother's house, and they were, trying to be spooky, and they were like, "Get out! You are not welcome here." That kind of. And I felt so nauseous, and they said, that name has not been here in over 100 years, and I assumed they meant the name of God. I don't know, but that's what it makes sense. Anyway, we're coming up on the half-hour point. Time is flying, and when we come back, we're going to complete a little bit of stuff about ghosts and then head into UFOs and the boogeyman. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you missed the first half of the show or would like to listen to any of our past episodes, they are here on YouTube, and you can find that at Medium Tracey Lockwood is the channel. And while you're there, please subscribe to my channel. I'd appreciate that. Welcome back, Gaylen. We're so happy to have you back.
Thank you.
We were talking about the confusion that sometimes suffered by ghosts, the earthbound or the tweeners, as I call them, because they are disoriented between the two worlds. And that happens to us too sometimes when we're trying to peer into that other realm, you know, we suffer a little confusion when they appear,
Yes.
but they also have a sense of confusion sometimes. What are some of the other reasons that that ghosts don't move on? You know,
The number one, and this is it, and I laugh about it sometimes. Okay.
uh-huh.
Give an example. One lady wouldn't go because her husband was there and she was still mad at him. Okay, that like I'm not kidding. I swear. I mean,
had
so
a pick.
yeah. So it's amazing the reasons they won't let something go. Something happened to them. They're angry at something. You know, some of them, they did something bad and they're just so afraid that they're going to go into hell instead. And these people feel that way. They really believe that they're going to be judged by God and God's not going to judge them well. Okay. And my job is to convince them, guess what? God already loves you. God loves everybody. I mean, everybody. And God
Yes.
wants everybody to learn their lesson. And your judge, I tell them they're judging themselves, okay? And they got to learn
Yes.
to forgive themselves. It's not God who's judging them. You can't go to heaven with emotional baggage like guilt and anger because heaven is all love. And so you got to learn to let it go. So it can be from, like I said, from a lady who's mad at her husband, just, you know, for the reason right there. People think just because, you know, they did a little drugs when they were younger, that and while they were in college, that's going to stop them from going. Yeah. The minute that somebody dies, they learn that heaven is real because they do see that light the first
Yes.
time. They just don't go through it. So in their mind, they realize if heaven is real, hell is real. So that's a really scary fence to go through if you're worried that you're not going to be forgiven. If you're worried you're not going to be forgiven, that means you're not forgiving yourself. You're not letting it go. You know, and I have to convince them that no matter what they did, look at what they did. Okay, I was wrong. I was bad. I shouldn't have done that, but I forgive myself,
Yeah.
you know, for
I think
doing
that's
that.
one of the biggest barriers too. And
Exactly.
the fear of punishment, which
Mhm.
actually I've never one time in thousands of readings ever
Yeah,
encountered a single soul that once they were out of body didn't have complete control over where they were. You know,
exactly.
we're just used to the concept that others have power over us
Mhm.
because we're in this dense physical world where our will gets violated. But our will is never violated,
Exactly.
you know. And even it talks, I'm not trying to be religious, I'm just saying in the Bible it mentions that man was given free will. Well,
Mhm.
if that's the case, and somebody would not want to be in a place of fire and
Mhm.
brimstone, then, you know, where does that free will come in? It comes in absolutely up front
Exactly.
because our energy follows focus. And I think our thoughts upon crossing can trap us in.
Yes.
But you know
Yes.
what? It's the same here because we get trapped in
Mhm.
our own insulating thoughts and we start believing things that aren't even true
Mhm.
about our lives. You know, no one cares for me and I don't
Yeah,
make a difference and
exactly.
I'm
Mhm.
a bad person or
Yep.
I have a curse or
Uh-huh.
whatever. And that's just,
It carries on with them when
it's
they die.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And I just feel like it's a tremendous service what you do in terms of helping those that are suffering to cross.
Yeah. And I think what you do, helping people understand and deal with it, you know, in a way that I can never do. You know, I don't
Yeah,
have that communication. I don't, you know, I can't communicate, you know, so you know, I'm always jealous about that ability that even though I can see and get EVPs, there's no one-on-one really conversation. I get questions answered here and there, but then that's it. You know,
come
I
to my
can't.
development classes. You can do
Yeah.
it.
I think I'm afraid to. I
I,
think a lot of it with a lot of paranormal investigators is I try to really stay focused on helping ghosts.
And I
You know what I mean? I realize I probably could develop other abilities, but I'm afraid I might get lost.
really,
Yeah.
I think maybe science creates a certain clinical distance, even though you're very compassionate and emotional about the work that you do. I think as a medium, part of the things that people have to develop is an ability to see, to not become pulled in emotionally to the plate of the
Yeah.
spirit, because if you do that, then you're going to upset your client because they're going to say, "Oh my God, the medium is crying. What
Yeah. Or
must
scared to
really,
death,
really
you know.
or something." And so when I sense energies, whether they are ghosts or spirits, I do it out of love for what I'm doing, for sure, because there is a great deal of compassion as there is in your work. But I also sort of feel like a detective in a way too,
Yes.
because I'll say, well, I'm seeing a young man hanging in this bathroom,
Yep.
or I feel like there was some torture that occurred here. If
Yeah.
I start losing it, then I start creating that vibration of fear and
Yep.
voting
Exactly.
myself, and then I'm just I turn to jelly,
Hmm.
so I can't do that. And I think knowing that they don't really have power over us
Mm-mm.
is really important, and you had that wisdom even as a child. I just think it's tremendous. You're serving both worlds.
And I did have a couple ghosts help me, so to me, if they were helping me, how can I not help them?
Oh, that's
And as a kid, I thought that, and that is what convinced me God was real. I didn't, that it was love. Why
yes.
would a ghost help me?
Mhm.
Why would this, and why would this happen? And not just once, so as a kid, I saw that love, and I said, God is real, and love and this positive energy is what's going to save me.
Yeah,
And,
perfect
and
love, perfect light, perfect
mhm.
sound.
And if it
Absolutely.
wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to develop my skills and put up walls and, on my own. Because when I realized that, I was like, oh. And it was a ghost who taught me how to build a wall. My wall is made of bricks. Because
Uh-huh.
as a kid, there was, I didn't know what a force field was.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Force field,
yeah, I'm 50
barrier,
years
yes.
old. I didn't have the internet. There were no books, right? But she told me, build a wall. So to me, the strongest wall I could think of was to build a bricks. And
Yes.
I've gotten fast building that brick wall over the years. And it's still a brick wall for me,
Yeah.
but that worked for me to help keep the ghost from getting too near me. And she, concentrate on the wall. And that's what I did. And
Yeah, I like the term force field. That's cool.
yeah.
We have a term for it. We call it our protective aura.
There you
Like it's a
go.
layer to us that, and really honestly, if our vibration within ourselves is one of truth, light, love,
Mhm.
peace, knowledge,
Exactly.
wisdom, healing, understanding, all those things, we're really not going to be violated by any dark energy. But you mentioned early, sometimes ghosts are attracted to you, spirits are attracted to me
Mhm.
because
It's our energy.
it is.
Yeah,
I think it's
it's our energy.
because we're portals
Mhm.
between the two worlds in our own way. Exactly the
And
same.
a lot of them are confused when they approach us because they don't understand what it is about us that's drawing them to us.
Right.
Yeah, so they get lost, and they're just like us. They're just as confused as we are. They don't understand why they're drawn to us, and then it's up to us to go. We're here to help you.
Well, you also have had other energies attracted to you too, both UFOs and what I call star people, but
Yes.
are generally referred to as aliens.
Hmm.
Tell us about that a little bit. Like,
Okay. Well, for me, I grew up in Mount Shasta, California. Okay. And at the time, I didn't know it, but Mount Shasta, California is a very good hot spot for UFOs. There is an energy there. Okay. There's no doubt about it because I can feel it. All
mhm.
right. When I was a child, this is my circumstances. I was scared to death of the ghost tale, because there were other things in the dark besides the ghost that were really, really scary.
Yeah.
Okay, the boogeyman.
Yes.
So I'm scared to death of this. The aliens that I saw put off the same energies people did. So they were fine in my book. Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
care
that's
what they,
interesting.
So I was in a dilemma. The ghost scared me, put off this energy, yet the aliens that I would encounter, and I encountered in my lifetime 3 different types.
Oh, tell us.
Yes. Well, first are the grays. Okay.
And you are very familiar with your field, so
Mhm.
but some of our listeners may not be. So explain what is a gray?
A gray is like a little skinny 3 inch high, 3 foot high, little skinny alien. That's gray. Okay. And if you ever seen like an ant's head with the big old eyes and kind of pointed and their fat heads,
Mm-hmm.
that's what they look like. The people who have encounters, close encounters, the grays, as they call them, is the most common alien that people do encounter.
Oh,
Okay.
so sort of the size of small children.
Exactly.
Okay.
When I was little, I called them little people. We knew they weren't children, but we knew they were smart, so we just called them little people. All right,
Oh.
so that's kids. That's what we called them. But there are some that are 6 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I met some that were even taller, that were so skinny you could see their rib cage really well, and really long fingers. And with those smaller grays, their faces were fat. Well, with these really tall, skinny ones, there was no fat around the skull, so it did remind me of a praying mantis because it made the eyes stand out. But
Oh,
it's
right.
not, yeah. But I think a lot of people see them and they think of them as bugs because it looks like a praying mantis,
Uh-huh.
but it really is just a different type of gray.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
interesting.
and all of them
Not
were
age
nice.
dependent. Like they're like a different species or I
Exactly.
guess well that's or race maybe
Yeah.
because
That's what the
yeah.
little 3 foot grays, I call them the worker ants.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and it seemed like the taller they were, the more intelligent they were, and they were stronger, telepathic. I could break control from the little grays. Me and my twin were really good at that,
Uh-huh.
and they couldn't control us. Once you got us on ship, we were like, all right, and we were running around. They had to get the 6 feet ones to get us under control. I used to call them cowards because they would bring them in, and
When you
so they can
say under
mentally control.
control, what
They mentally control you, like zap you into a zombie,
just
you
like
know.
do you think they shift your vibration into sort of a trance-like state, like a frequency shift or
I think it's what it is. And I think that because they try to make people forget they had an encounter, was they don't want them to feel the trauma.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people are very, very scared who've never had paranormal experiences. Me, who's seen it, were scared of the ghosts, there are things in the dark.
Mhm.
They weren't scary to me. So I was used to
Oh,
seeing different things. So even though they looked different, well, so did a ghost and so did the other things in the dark. So to me, it never registered that just because it looked different that I should be scared.
uh-huh.
And,
Right.
and I wasn't. And they were nice, yes, they did, they did their probes and everything on us, but
Did
they
it
were very
hurt?
caring about us. No, they try to block all that out. They don't know how to put us out to stop the pain because they're afraid to,
Right.
they don't know if the person's going to wake up, basically. So they really try to block that out. But people, in extreme circumstances will break control for a couple minutes and they see what's going on and they have to, like me, zap them into this state again to where they're not quite, like you said, vibrating with their body. They're a little off from it. So they're not feeling the pain and not having the experience.
Yeah.
Um, I
And
believe they're doing it to save their own selves. Okay. I,
uh,
I believe that they're trying to help themselves and they don't mean anything bad by taking us.
oh, that's very interesting because thousands of years ago, the Star People came. I know they're legends that have carried through some of the Native American traditions about sharing and I know I've done readings where this fact came through about, them contributing basically DNA to save a particular culture. But the
Mm-hmm.
way it was explained to me, at least the particular person that came to me for a reading, was that the shaman who had opened the portal between the dimensions had not closed it properly. And so all these thousands of years have passed, and now their culture is suffering. And so they
Mm-hmm.
want a little bit back of what they gave.
Yeah, and I get it. If we were in the same circumstances and our race was dying, we would do the same thing.
We would probably do
Yeah,
it. Yep,
yeah. So,
absolutely.
yeah. So to me, they're not that bad. And there are humans. I know it sounds Battlestar Galactica, but there are humans on other planets that are our brothers and sisters.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So a lot of people would be shocked how many humans are out there. I was. It was really cool. I didn't want to come back to Earth. I wanted to be
Well,
on one of those other planets because they had spaceships.
oh,
Yeah, I just was really fascinated going, this is really cool, and I just was just wowed by it all. Yeah,
well, what
and
what kind of ships have you seen too? Like
uh,
UFO ships?
the most one I see the most of is the triangle ship.
Hmm.
Okay, and it's huge. It's a couple football sizes. It is huge. It has abducted me in broad daylight. My sister and I, while I was driving a car on the interstate.
Hmm.
Okay. And I remember because the light kept shining on the car, and I finally got out because in California, helicopter follows you, it means you're speeding, pull over so a cop can catch up and give you a ticket. So I thought that's what it was at first.
Hmm.
And I got out of the car, and what is so memorable about this experience was I noticed all these other cars, and you're talking 4 lanes on each side were pulling over. There was a semi truck in front of me, and the guy had his back against it, and he had a scared look on his face, and his voice was shaking. He was saying over and over again, this isn't real, this isn't real. I could
Oh,
hear the fear in his voice. And
oh,
that's when I looked up, and that's when I saw the triangle shape. And we got in our car. My sister was freaking because she knew.
oh,
And then we disappeared for 3 hours. Yeah, and that was
wow.
it. So they actually got us during right when the sun was going. But I'll never forget the fear in that guy's voice. And to this day, that's what I remember most anything was how scared he was.
Oh,
And that's what I want to stop.
yes. Stop
That's
the
I
fear.
don't want people to fear the paranormal like that because it really affects their lives forever. Once you
Yes.
have that fear inside of you of something like that, it doesn't go away. A lot of times it festers. It
Yeah.
affects their life and their energy, and it's like let it go.
Yes. It can be repaired, but
Yes, it can
yes.
be
Yes.
exactly, but talking to the right person, just to even tell their experience to somebody that doesn't laugh at them and takes it seriously is that sometimes most of the time that's just enough.
Yeah. Gaylen, we are just almost at
I
the end. Ask
know.
them something about the boogeyman, and I don't want to scare them and leave them, but to you, explain what you think. How do you explain the boogeyman?
Okay. Basically, what and this is what I always keep an eye out for. The boogeyman encounters is a general term that I use for other things in the dark, physical creatures.
Mhm.
It's not cryptozoology, which is the study of creatures not yet discovered, like Bigfoot and giant squids.
Right,
Okay.
right.
But sometimes, just sometimes, there is something underneath the bed or in the closet that's different than a ghost.
Hmm.
Okay. I've seen a couple of things that a lot of times they're just little creatures that are curious about us. That's what I get from them. Some
Yeah.
of them are curious. They're looking at me like and I'm looking at them and they're very curious. But just like I think wild animals, out there in the woods, there are some that are dangerous, like a
Yes.
bear, like
Do
a lion,
Do you think that some of them could be elementals too? Like,
I
how they say fairies and elves can have kind of that prankster, not so good side to them
hmm
sometimes?
and I would have believed it, if I would have, if I hadn't had the experience myself and saw what happened, and my brain kept telling me that it wasn't real, it couldn't be
Same
real.
words as
If
truck
the
driver.
ghost, if she had not talked to me, and I looked at her. because I never had a ghost talk to me before.
Right.
And I was going, huh? And she kept telling me to scream, and I asked her why. Because I wasn't scared. I was just, my brain could not believe what I was seeing. And when it, after it was over with, and I went, A equals B, B, C,
Right.
D. I was just putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I'm just going, I can't believe that happened. Yeah, and so it had a dangerous intent. I don't know how it managed to even open up a doorway, a portal. I don't know how it was physically getting me inside of it. I was just amazed that I was going through the floor.
Right.
And so, that was what convinced me God was real, because that ghost, and it could have been a spirit, that saved me, that told me I was in danger,
or a guide. It could
a guide, so,
angelic, yeah.
and so I realized that, when I did research over the years, that's what it was about, that other people encountered something like I was describing, and I wanted to help them.
Oh, thank you so much,
That's what
Gaylen.
my book's about. Yeah,
I appreciate it. For people that want to contact Gaylen, her website is afterlifegoeson.com. And thank you all for listening. Thank you, Gaylen. And
thank you, and see you all later too.
Thank you. And everyone, remember that it is never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing. We'll see you next week.